The Sony A7S III is one of the hottest hybrid cameras out there right now, but in the minds of many, it has one fatal flaw. It sucks for photography. But is that really true? In this video, we're putting it to the test. Let's get into it. Okay, so as I mentioned off the top, the Sony A7S III is an absolute beast of a hybrid photo and video camera. I've made a few videos already about some things to be mindful of before you purchase it, how I set mine up, the cage that I use. So if you haven't watched those ones, I will link them up there and probably in the description below as well. All that said, despite being a hybrid camera, it is still largely seen as a video-only camera, primarily due to the 12 megapixel sensor, especially when you're comparing it to some of the more photo-forward cameras, such as the Sony Alpha 1 or even the Sony A7R series. It really just doesn't have the same punch in terms of megapixels, and many folks claim that it's not enough to be considered a photo camera, and primarily point to the lack of ability to print the photos as a really kind of defining and limiting factor. So I really wanted to put this to the test and find out just how large can we print photos that are shot on the A7S III. So here's what I did. I hit up my friends at New Mexico Prints, which is actually where I get all of my photos printed. While we're waiting for my package from New Mexico Prints to arrive, what we can do is we can jump into Photoshop and you can actually see just how large you can print your photo. So this will not only work for the A7S III, but any camera that you do have, you can check the maximum size that you can print this and still retain the quality. So let's take a look here at this image from the Golden Gate Bridge. So if we come up here to image size, this will bring up this image size selection for us. And we can actually change the width and height here to be the size of the print that we want to make. And the way that we can check what the largest size is if we unselect this resample button here, and then we want to change the width of this until we hit a resolution that is near 115 pixels per inch. After 115 pixels per inch, that's where it's going to start to break down and deteriorate, and the print is going to stop looking good. So if we just slowly increase this by an inch at a time, we'll get to a point at which we hit 115, and that means that we can print this as large as 20 by 26 before it starts to get too pixelated. So we could print this roughly that large. However, there is another simple little trick here that we can do within Camera Raw to get even more resolution out of this image. So if we open Camera Raw, right click and then click Enhance, and then use the Super Resolution feature. And what this does is it uses Adobe's AI to scan the pixels, enhance them, and create a overall larger resolution photo. So now that we've enhanced this photo, let's hop back into Photoshop and see how large we can print it. So now this is the newly enhanced image. And if we do that same thing, we go up here to image size, uncheck the resample, and then we can increase this again. And now you'll see that we're able to get all the way up to 40 by 50 resolution. So this is already much, much, much bigger. Now that is all great in theory and all, but how do these actually look in the real world? One second. Hello?
FedEx, I have a delivery for Kyle.
Okay, yeah, I'll be right up. Okay, so I have with me here the prints that I got from my friends over at New Mexico Prints. As I mentioned, this is where I get all my prints done. If you are looking for a print shop, I highly, highly recommend them. You don't have to be in New Mexico. You can get them shipped all over the world. It's amazing. So what they've done here is they've taken that same photo that we were just looking at in Photoshop, and they've printed out in a various number of sizes. And in an effort to not have them go bankrupt by having them ship me these massive prints, I've gone up to 16 by 20 because that's really kind of like as big as I typically need to print them. And then everything after that, we've just kind of cropped in on the image. So the maximum size here that you'll see is 16 by 20, but we've just kind of punched in to scale how large it would be so we can look at the details and check how it's gonna look. So as you can see, this is the non-enhanced at 16 by 20. It is certainly big enough to print pretty nicely on that one. And then this one is the 24 by 30 cropped in a little bit. Still looks pretty solid on that one as well. This is our smaller one. And then this one here is as if we were printing it on a 40 by 50. you can see here that we still are doing really, really nicely. So honestly, I think this is pretty good here. And then honestly, if you are thinking about getting a print made from my friends over at New Mexico Prints, I would highly, highly, highly recommend getting their acrylic. It's honestly so hard to really convey just how much depth there is in these. So they put one of these kind of metallic looking prints underneath it, and then you have the acrylic on top. It already has the mount on here, and it sticks off the wall a little bit, so you don't need a frame. So it ends up actually basically costing the same amount as if you were to frame it. And these just look so sleek and so nice. And just to give you a sense again about how big 40 by 50 is, it's a little under 3.5 feet wide, and then 5 feet is about the height of the gray part of this backdrop. So if that's not enough for you, then you print billboards and you already know that this camera is not enough for you, so you're probably not even watching this video anyways. I usually don't print anything bigger than 16 by 20, so for me, that's enough. Now, all of that said, I do definitely see one downside here, and that would be cropping. So with something like the A7R or the Alpha 1, for example, you have a lot of extra reach and wiggle room by either using APS-C mode or cropping in post. When I'm going out with my A7R and I'm trying to pack a little bit light, usually I'll just bring a 24-70 because I know I can crop into almost like 100, 105. So that's not really something that I see as an option for something like the A7S III. So if that's something that you do want, maybe this camera wouldn't be for you because it's a little bit limited in that way. But if you are a hybrid shooter, you want to do photo and video, just do know that this camera does pack a lot more punch than some of the other people on YouTube are kind of professing it as, you know, a glorified YouTube thumbnail maker. This is a very wonderful camera. The low light performance on the photo mode is also very, very impressive. I would definitely recommend this if you were a hybrid photo video shooter. If you're a photo forward shooter and you want to do some video, there's probably a better camera out there for you, such as the A7R IV, maybe the Alpha 1 if that's something in your price range, or you could maybe hold out for something like the A7 IV, perhaps. Who knows? All right, y'all, that is it for this video. Hope you learned a little bit more about photography for the A7S III, maybe makes your purchasing decision a little bit easier, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.